Peace and bright blessings, guys. It's your Queen of Spades, and I'm back with you today. I'm actually wanting to do an overview on the movie Hocus Pocus 2. Okay? So I don't know how many of you all have actually uh, watched this particular movie, but it was really good. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it. They did not disappoint. I wish that they had made the movie a lot sooner. Um, because my heart wanted it, my heart and soul wanted it so badly. But, better late than never, right? They eventually came out with the movie. And years later, you know, I think that if they would have come out with it probably, you know, um, years sooner, then there possibly would have been time to make a part three. But I mean, who knows? Lightning can strike. But you know, if they don't make a part, well, they can't. I don't want to say they can't, but the way that Hocus Pocus ended, I think it should just stay as is. Um, it it uh it definitely was good. Um, so I had gotten someone else's opinion on it. They're like, it definitely was a good movie. It wasn't better than part one, but it was good. I agree with that. It, it wasn't better than part one. Part one set the foundation for part two, and but part two was really good too. So it's like it doesn't compare to part one, but it's like an add-on to part one. So in Hocus Pocus, the movie pretty much starts off with um, Winifred storming to her home where Sarah and her other sister is Mary, Sarah and Mary. And she's upset because, there's this townsman who basically was telling her that she needed to marry um, his son, I believe. And she wasn't attracted. Winifred wasn't attracted to the son. But he was telling her that because she was about to be 16, it's time for her to start thinking about marriage. And she refuted, like she totally rebelled against the idea. And she came storming home to her sisters, upset about it, to tell them. And so they decided, well, it's your birthday, so, why don't you open your gifts from us? So the first gift they revealed was this sort of like rendition of Jello, a Jello cake, in which I think they said they used some goop and pig's blood. I was like, ew. But it looked like Jello. And so she was like, I can't eat right now. I'm too upset. So they were like, well, it's okay. You want to open your gifts from us? So she's like, yes, that might cheer me up. So they hand her this box with this big spider in it. So they were like, we were trying to find the biggest one that we could find for you for your birthday. So she's like, oh wow, thank you so much. She was so happy about that spider. Then all of a sudden, here comes a knock at the door, and it's like all the townspeople outside. And the guy, the I guess the sheriff or mayor or whomever this guy in charge was, he was there and his son was there as well. And he was like, you don't have a choice, like you will marrieth my son. And so she was like, well, I thought about it. And he was like, okay. And she was like, and I can think about it again, just to make sure. He's like, okay, all right. And she's like, no. I thought that part was a little funny. And he was like, okay, well then, you will be sentenced. And your sisters, they're going to be taken away from you so that they could be raised up properly. And so the sisters, two people went in the home and grabbed the two sisters. No, before the townspeople came into the house and grabbed them, I missed the part that was a little funny to me. When the townspeople knocked on the door, they went hiding in various places in this small cabin. And so Winifred was like, stay quiet, like, So the townspeople are knocking at the door, and Sarah's crazy self is like, we're not here. And Winifred was like, shut up, like, be quiet. So the townspeople came in, they grabbed Sarah, they grabbed Mary, and they were carting them off somewhere to a new home, to be raised by someone else. And they were fighting to get back to Winifred, and Winifred was fighting to get them back. And they ended up, something happened where the spider crawled out of the box, and it ended up climbing onto the arm of the mayor guy, the governor guy, whoever he was in charge of this town. And so spider got out and it ended up on his arm. And so he saw the spider and he just went crazy. He's like, oh my God, there's a spider on my arm. Evil befalls us all. He's like, help me. What did he say? He was like, the spider represents evilness coming into our town or something like that. It was just funny because it was like purely suspicion and speculation. It was a gift, to Winifred, and the spider ended up getting out and getting on him because he was in their home. But Winifred and the sisters, while everybody's in the uproar and everybody's like screaming out, like, "Oh my God, God save us, deliver us from this evil." They're all panicking and they're going crazy. And the two people that were holding Mary and Sarah were trying to help. You know what? I think he was the pastor of the church, which gave him a lot of power in that town. Yeah, I believe he was the pastor of the town's pastor. So, yeah, so then Winifred grabbed Sarah and Mary, and she was like, come on, we got to make a run for it. And they were like, well, where are we going? And she was like, to our favorite spot in the woods. So they go running there, and they're talking about, ooh, that was a close call. We got away. And there's this like this bird, but it's a specific type of bird. Gosh, I should have wrote this down, but it was like a black hawk, maybe not. A black raven, I think. I think it was like a black raven. But anyways, it was standing off in the distance, like watching them and listening to them. And as they're talking and figuring out their next move, this bird comes flying down and then transforms before their eyes into this beautiful woman with grayish hair and this beautiful dress on. And she reveals that she is a witch, and this is where her and her companions meet. when they want to meet up to share, um, sucking the souls or the lives out of the children that they lure to the woods. And so they're scared, like, who is this woman? And at first, the woman tries to, well, she starts singing before she appears, and Sarah is attracted to the song and starts like gravitating towards the sound. And Winifred kind of grabbed her like, "No, where are you going? Stay put." So that's when the woman, turned from the bird into a woman. And she starts explaining that she's a witch. And um, she started like trying to get at Sarah because she wanted to, steal her soul. She wanted to, suck the life out of her. Because in the storyline of Hocus Pocus, the witches would suck the lives out of all the children that they could find so that they could stay young and youthful. Now, that's purely fiction. Um, Witches have children themselves for the most part, so they're not, for the most part, the ones that are, you know, um, similar to me. They're not killing off children. They're not sucking their lives out of their bodies so that they can remain youthful. All of that, for the most part, is a myth. We want to remain youthful, then we get in the gym and we eat correct, So we add natural herbs and spices to our diet, you know. That's how we stay youthful. But in the movie, they suck the lives out of all the children in Salem to you know, get youthful. So um she was trying to get Sarah, and Winifred was like, "This is my sister, like she's not going anywhere." And so then the witch started like sniffing Winifred, and she's like, "You smell powerful." And Winifred was looking at her like, "Back up, like you a little too close." Sniffing on me or whatnot. And at some point, the witch was like, "You all are not normal children. What are you doing here?" And they explained they were trying to get away from the townspeople. And so she's like, okay. She's like, "It's really good that you all are a coven, We need our covens, to make sure that we stay safe and protected, at all times, and have people to look out for us and, help us with our rituals and spell work and different things like that." And she was like, "It's really good that you have your sisters and that you already have your coven." And she explained, like, on a witch's 16th birthday, that's when she gains her powers. And so they were just listening to her, and she was like, "I have a gift for you." And she presented this book of spells, which in part one, that's the book that Winifred has, which she calls book. And she's like, "Book." Yeah, that's what the witch gave them. And she was basically like, "You can take this book and possibly get revenge." So the girls opened up the book and they started looking through the different spells in the book. And Winifred's like, "What about this one? What was it called? It was like a spell to make someone the most powerful in the world, in the universe." And the older witch was like, "No, you can't do that spell. No one can do that spell. Book doesn't like that spell, so he's not going to let you do that spell." And so she was like, promise me that you will never do, that that particular spell." So they promised, and she's like, great. And she's like, they're like, where's your coven? And she's like, a lot of them basically died off or were killed or hunted down. And so it was only like her and maybe like a couple of others left. And that's why she was saying to Winifred, it's so good that, you still have your coven. So, just like that, Winifred was like, wow, there's a lot of things in here that I could do. Thank you so much. How can we ever repay you? And by that time, the older witch had like poofed back into um, the bird physically, the raven, and had flown away. And she was watching them from a perch in the woods. And so they got their book and they went home. And, they decided, it would be good to do something, to get them back for what they tried to do to us earlier. So just then, the book opens up to like a revenge spell. And so Winifred and Mary and Sarah begin, reciting the magical words in the book. And all of a sudden, the guy who was like the head of the town as like a pastor or mayor or something, I forget his name, but basically fire started on his house. And yeah, it began to start burning. And his wife and other people started like trying to get water to put it out, and he was like, this is Satan's doing, evil is upon us, you know. And the Winifred and her sisters, they were laughing. And I guess at some point, um uh basically, you know, them being witches kind of caught up with them because, as we know in part one, they lured a child, a girl child by the name of Emily, and her brother came looking for her, Zachary Banks. Or is it Thackeray? No, it's Zachary Banks. Yeah, that's how they would pronounce it. Thackeray Banks. But anyways, he came looking for her. He wanted to find his sister and rescue her. And they had already given her the potion, and they had already begun um, sucking her life out of her body. Oh, I keep hearing my cat different places. That's why I'm looking all around. But yeah, he tried to rescue his sister, and they had already begun sucking the life from her body. So she's in a chair. They had fed her the potion, and they're like, you know, and then they go, and Mary goes, and Winifred's like, like, did you really just burp? And then they're like, ooh. But yeah, so they actually are the cause of Zachary Banks' sister dying. And then they made Zachary Banks into a cat. So I don't know if you guys remember in part one, but he was threatening to tell their parents and bring the townspeople there. And Winifred and her sisters was like, we got to do something about him, because if he tells the townspeople about us, they'll hang us by the neck. They'll kill us. So they had him cornered. And remember, Winifred's like, twist the bones and then the back. And then Sarah and Mary is like, yakety yakety malakalistic. And they're like, trim him of his baby fat. Yakety yakety malakalistic. Give him fur black as black, just like this. And then he turned into a cat, and he was that way for many decades until Max and Emily, basically found him and actually freed his soul, and he was able to cross over into the spirit realm with his sister, Emily, and the rest of his family. So in part two, after that particular part, that's what they kind of like jumped to. Part one, where Winifred, Sarah and Mary are all grown up and they're about to receive, the hanging for killing. Um, well, they couldn't find Zachary Banks. They didn't know he had been transformed into a cat. Um, but they did find the girl's body, and they knew that they were responsible for taking lots of children, so they got hung. And but before they got hung, um they were the three sisters were like saying different spells out loud, and the people in the village that came to their house that night, led by Zachary Banks' parents, were like, don't listen to them. Cover your ears. Cover your ears. They're speaking evil. They're speaking devilishment. By the way, all practitioners of magic um, are not necessarily uh, devil worshippers or followers. So that's another myth that needs to be dispelled. Not saying that all aren't, because some are, but all of us aren't. So anyways, um, yeah, so they covered their ears, and the person holding book dropped him. And that's when Winifred was like, "Fools, all of you! The Natalie book speaks to you. When All Hallows Eve comes and the moon is round, a virgin will summon us from under the ground. We shall be back, and the lives out of all the children in Salem shall be ours." And at that point, Zachary Banks' father, gave the signal like, eh, go ahead and hang them. We don't need them around anymore. So they were hanged at the neck until they were dead. And then decades later, here's Max and Allison coming, to light the black flame candle. Well, in part two, what happened was they showed how part one and part two kind of interlinked, kind of like, you know, there were some events that crossed over from part one into part two, like the fact that there was this store owner of a metaphysical type shop. And this guy, basically, he was there the night that, actually the morning after Halloween, that, in part one, when Winifred, Mary, and Sarah, kind of like dispersed into dust and, disappeared. He was there. He was a little boy and he was trick or treating, and he became intrigued because he followed them that night. He became intrigued with the story of the Sanderson sisters, and he decided when he got older to find book and also use book to help him to create a new black flame candle. So he created this new black flame candle, and he actually, there were three young girls in high school that would always frequent his store and get like different herbs and stuff like that. So when they came to get their herbs and candles, because they usually would do like, you know, um, a ritual on Halloween night, um, when they came to get their things, the candle and, their different herbs and stuff, he gave them this candle that he had created from book, the Black Flame Candle. And, he told them, they could light it, they could wish on it, it might actually, bring the Sanderson sisters back. And he was like joking with them, and they thought he was totally joking, but he actually was not joking at all. He did prepare a candle. Um, 1 second, guys. My son. Everybody's out trick or treating and whatnot. Stay longer. He's like, do I have to come back by the time you said? So, um, back to the guy at the shop. He gave them all of their ritual things, and they were accustomed to coming to his shop and frequenting, his shop and getting these different things. So, so, um, yeah. So he's the one who would usually make sure they get all of their herbs and ritual things, and so they got their things and they left, and he still had book, like, encased in one of, his cabinets in the store. And so it was three girls, but then at some point, one of the girls in the group, she started like hanging out more with like um, other students and, people into different things. And, you know, she uh, kind of like, backed away from the group in a sense. I don't think she purposefully did it, but just from, the different things that she began getting more into, she started to be more intrigued with hanging out with more normal people, I guess. And so it was just the two girls. So they go into the woods and, they've got their herbs. The guy said to them before they left, this is not a good night to possibly get, hexed or cursed. So you guys definitely want to take as much stuff to protect yourself as possible. So they started looking at his different herbs, and he had angelica root, and it said on the package to protect or to end curses and hexes against you. So they grabbed like 3 or 4 packs of those, and then they left out to go to the woods. And they went to the woods, the same spot where Mary, Winifred, and Sarah went when they were, younger and growing up. um they went there, and that was like their secret spot too. So it just showed like how things can transcend time. This was, hundreds of years before they were born, when, Winifred, Sarah, and Mary would go and frequent the same spot in those woods. And now, here's two girls in the practice of magic and rituals, decades and decades later, going to that same spot in the woods to, practice magic rituals. So that was just interesting because, it felt nostalgic for me, because it was like places like that always exist, that may have existed decades and hundreds of years ago, but still exist in the here and now, and people still frequent them, people still use them. So it's just very interesting to see that. So they light the candle, and all of a sudden they hear the Sanderson sisters come back, and they're like, what the heck, first when they light the candle, it's like a normal flame, and then it starts like crackling and popping and doing all these things. So they blow the candle out. So then, um, at some point, well, like literally right after they blow it out, the candle lights itself back up, and then they hear the Sanderson sisters. And first thing they do when they come back, they're all happy and hugging each other and whatnot. We're back, sisters, you know. And they're like, we got to find children now, you know, because they're looking all older and, you know, aged. And so the way that they, you know, get more youthful is by sucking the lives out of children. So they start like this encore singing this song together and, you know, happy and celebrating the fact that they're back here to do what it is that they do. Mm, hold on, guys. Okay, I'm back, guys. So they hear the Sanderson sisters and they're singing, they're doing this full blown encore. And so the girls instantly, the candle can't be stopped from burning. So the girls instantly get up and run and hide. And the Sanderson sisters are steady singing this song and in celebratory mood. And the girls are behind this rock. They went running and they found this rock and jumped behind this rock. And one of the girls turned to the other and was like, who are they singing to? And then Sarah's like, you guys. And she's behind them and they're like, ah. So they get real scared. They start running. And then Mary, Sarah, and Winifred kind of block them in. And they're like, we're looking for children. And they're like, oh, we're not children. We're like 40 years old. And they're like, really? Well, what is your secret? So, so, so the girls are like, oh, you know, we eat children too. It's just that, you know, we don't have to do the ritual like we used to have to, you know, to lure children in. We don't have to do that anymore. Now, there is there's a store, there's a place where there's an apothecary and we can just go and get the stuff that, you know, it's already made up and children are have already been killed and crushed up and put into these products. And they're like, we can take you to that apothecary if you want us to. So they're like, yeah, take us to this apothecary. So they go to a CVS and it was just funny because the two girls walked into the store, and you know how automatic doors at like the CVS and Walgreens, they'll open up when it senses that someone is close by. So as soon as the girls walked to the door, it opened up, and then they walked to the second set of doors, and that opened up too. And Winifred, Mary, and Sarah were like, notice their powers, sister. Like, you know, doors just open for them, you know? So I thought that was funny. And then they get into CVS, and the girls start showing them all these different lotions and different products that, you know, supposedly have lots of dead children crushed up in them that they can, you know, consume so that they will have the lives of children without, you know, going after actual children. So they show them where these products are, and they start drinking these different lotions and stuff like that. And they're like happy and excited, like I'm already starting to feel the effects. This was great, you know. So then some people walked up, some girls walked up that had heard the story of the Sanderson sisters. And so they wanted a picture with them. So they did a picture, but they had filters on the picture. And so when Mary, Sarah, and Winifred looked at the picture, um, they were like, "Wow, you know, it's really working. We've gotten youthful, you know." So they were all happy and excited. And at some point, Mary, who is extremely smart, she looked up at the, you know how they have like those mirrors that are kind of like hanging from the ceiling, and it's like a big round mirror, and it's kind of like a hidden camera in it. So Mary looked up at it and she saw her true reflection, and she was like, "What?" So she had called on Winifred and was like, "Sisters, I think we've been tricked." So Winifred was like, "What are you talking about?" So she's like, "Look." So Winifred looks up at the mirror, and sure enough, she sees her same older age looking self staring back at her. And they were like, "We've been tricked. We're going to kill those girls, that told us that this would make us youthful." So they start looking for the girls in the store. And one of the girls was like really smart and hip to like what to do next to protect themselves from um, Mary, Sarah, and Winifred. So she was like, "Grab all the salt you can find," to the other girl. So the other girl goes and gets like bags and bags of salt. And at some point right after that, Mary, Sarah, and Winifred find the two girls. And they was like, "You're gonna pay for what you just did to us. Like, you lied to us." So Winifred starts drawing back her hand to throw some energy at the two girls, two young girls. And right before she did, the girl that had the bags of salt along with the other girls start ripping them open and opening them up and pouring them all around them. And so when Winifred tried to throw some magic at them, it's like the salt was a barrier, to keep her magic from harming them. And so just then they were like, "How did they do that?" So she was like, "Forget it. We've got more important things to do. We've got to find children. We've got to do all these different things. But first, we need to find Book." So they go desperately looking for where it might be. And they end up kind of like walking into um, the guy's shop eventually. And the guy was like, "Oh my God, you're the Sanderson sisters. I'm a big fan." You know? So when the girls asked him earlier in the movie, like, "Why do you like the Sanderson sisters so much?" He was like, "I'm a really big fan of them. They're just misunderstood. That's all." So you know, um, so that's how he chose to kind of see them. And so when they walked in the store, he's all excited, and he's like, "What can I do for you?" So they're like, "We're looking for Book." So he's like, "Oh yeah, I have it right here for you." That night that you all disappeared some decades ago, I was a child. Like, I followed y'all. I saw the whole thing. I saw y'all disappear, everything. So they're like, "Wow, okay." So they're like, "Well, do you know where our goodness, what is that thing called? It's like a time capsule, like it's on the tip of my tongue. But goodness, let me look it up. So I will not um say the wrong damn thing. Really? So we'll just call it a time capsule, but basically y'all know how it's like it's a glass thing and it has two sides to it. And they kind of go small, like into each other, and then as they widen up, they're like, you know, and if you put it down, like the sand that's at the top starts slowly but surely, like coming down into the bottom. I can't believe I can't remember what that thing is called, but anyways, we're moving on. Basically, she was asking for that Winifred, and he was like, I don't know where that is. So Winifred's like, no, Mary said, well, if you don't have it, I guess we'll just have to kill you, and she starts laughing. That was funny to me how she said it. And he was like, oh, wait a minute. I think I might know where it is. And she was like, uh-huh, okay. So he starts looking for it. He finds it. He was like, here. But before he found the time capsule, he has a black cat. So the black cat jumped up on the table in front of them. So they were like, oh, God, they got scared. So they were like, Winifred said, why won't you die, you mangy feline? So Sarah was like, it is Zachary Bakes. He came to torture us. He came to end us. So then Winifred starts to draw back her hand. She's like, die, die, die. So he's like, wait, no, no, that's just my cat. Like, he's like, I found the time capsule. So him finding it actually saved the cat. And they were like, good, okay. So Winifred starts reciting a spell, and she pulls his energy and attaches it to the time capsule. So she said, by the time this capsule runs out, all the sand runs out, you better had found all the materials that we need, to succeed tonight before the sun comes up. Otherwise, you will die. You will perish too. So he's like, okay. So he comes from around the counter and he leaves out the store and he immediately starts looking for this list of ingredients that they need to do this very powerful ritual. So, one of the ingredients that they needed was like the head of, um, Winifred needed the head of an ex-lover. So Sarah's like, no, Winifred's like, oh, well, Billy Butcherson, from part one, who was buried in the grave, and the myth goes that Winifred sewed his mouth shut with a dome needle, um, because he cheated on her with her sister Sarah, and she sewed his mouth closed so that he wouldn't be able to tell her secrets even in death. So that's how the myth and the story goes, the legend goes. But when the guy went and found, because Sarah said something interesting, she was like, "Well, Billy wasn't your lover. He was actually my lover, Winifred." And Winifred was like, "Oh, you were just a fling," like, which was funny to me too. So then when the guy went out, he decided to go find Billy Butcherson first. He figured that he could help him to find these different ingredients, which that was smart. So he digs him up, and Billy Butcherson pops out, and he's like, what's going on? He's like, who are you? And the guy's like, ah! He just starts screaming. And he starts running away. And Billy Butcherson climbs out of the grave and he's like, wait, wait, what are you screaming and yelling for? I'm not a bad zombie. And so the guy's like, stay back, stay back. So he's like, what did you dig me up for? What did you waken me for? So, oh, sorry guys. So the guy is like, I need some ingredients to um, defeat the Sanderson sisters, to defeat Winifred. So he's like, oh, okay, I'll help you. So he's like, great, I just need these ingredients. So he's like, and he's like, you're Winifred's ex-lover. And Billy Butcherson is like, I'm tired of people, saying this, that's a lie. Like, and now my name is, in this lie for all eternity. That's how people, remember me as Winifred's lover. I was Sarah's lover, and me and Winifred only kissed one time. I just wish that people would, stop telling these lies about me and her. And so the guy had promised, well, once all of this is done, I'll tell your story. I'll tell the truth, you know, about you and what happened. So he liked that idea because it had been known, like, forever that Billy Butcherson was Winifred's lover that cheated on her and got his mouth sewn with a dome needle. So at some point, Billy Butcherson gathers all these different ingredients and their flowers, their plants, their herbs in different places. And the guy that's with him starts, putting the ingredients together on this wooden stump in the woods. And so Billy Butcherson was like, "What's going on?" So he's like, "You're not doing you're not doing spell work against um the Sanderson sisters. You're helping them, aren't you?" So he's like, "You don't understand, it's I've had a long day, I've got to do this." So Billy Butcherson was like, "You lied. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself." So the guy's like, "Listen, I really don't have a lot of time for this. They also need the head of Winifred's ex-lover." So Billy Butcherson was like, "You're gonna have to find a way to help yourself because I'm out." And so he's like, "Wait a minute, I need to talk to you real quick." And so the zombie's like, "What do you want?" And the guy like grabs his head. He's like, "I just need your head for this ritual." He's like, "Get off me." He grabs his head and starts running. And he's like, his head is in his arm faced backwards and he's looking at his body, Billy Butcherson, and he's like, "You idiot, come this way, follow my voice." And so the body starts following his voice and then runs like into a pole or a tree or something. He's like, "You idiot, get up, come find me." So he takes his head and he puts it on the stump in the woods with all the other ingredients awaiting, Winifred and her sisters. Meanwhile, Winifred, the girls came to the shop right before the guy had left out to start looking for the ingredients. And so they threw them down into, what must have been an old time, like, holding cell, you know, for people like back in like the 17 and 1800s. Um, so she threw them down there, and then she put a spell over the area, the space, and said that they would never be able to break the spell. They'd never be able to break the curse, and they would stay there for the rest of their days. So the girls remembered that they had angelica root, and they started burning the angelica root, and then they started saying like this little chant, like you know, what was it? Break this curse and help us to find a way out. And they just like kept repeating something similar to that. And at first, one of them didn't believe that it would work. It would work out. but they both started putting their intentions in, and they both started saying the words together, and then lo and behold, the stairs that had disappeared when Winifred cast the curse had appeared back, and then they were able to um climb the stairs and get out of the this underground holding cell, it looks like. So okay. So at some point they get out, and they go they get they try to get Book, but Book won't, he won't allow himself to be taken by them. So they're determined to find the Sanderson sisters. And so the Sanderson sisters eventually meet up with the guy who owns the shop at, in the woods, at the area where the stump is and all these ingredients. And so Winifred immediately starts, enchanting the different ingredients, and they get together in a circle, and they're deciding that, they have to hurry up and do this ritual to make Winifred the most powerful witch of all. And she's figuring, I should be the most powerful. My sisters are just my sidekicks. You know, that's how she viewed them, like they were just her helpers. And Sarah kind of stood up for herself for the first time and was like, I'm not stupid. I'm powerful too. I have magic too. And Winifred was like, "Oh, excuse me. Like, you want to speak up now?" So then something happened. Winifred was calling the Book, and Book wouldn't come because the girls were struggling at the shop trying to get Book with them. And so she's like, you two idiots, go get those girls and go get Book. So Sarah was like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm powerful. I'm a powerful witch too. And Mary's like, yeah, me too. We're all powerful. And then Winifred's like, go and get those girls and go and get that Book and this, that, and the other. And Sarah and Mary is like, yes, Winnie, right away. They totally forgot about their stance, and when it did what Winifred asked, demanded of them to do. Um, so at some point, the girls, they ended up capturing the third girl who hadn't been a part of um, the little trio in a while. They actually went to her house because they needed the blood of an enemy to complete, their spell work. And the girl's father, the third witch of the little girl, well, then I guess they could still be considered little girls, high school girls. The third girl who had backed away, they were going after her father to get his blood because his ancestors were their enemies, and he actually looked just like that minister, that pastor ancestor who tried to make Winifred, when she was 16, marry his son. Looked just like him. It, but anyways, Winifred decided to go after him, and the other two girls were trying to protect their once friend and her father from getting harmed. So, they go to the house, and then the Sanderson sisters bust in, and then they figure, Salt protected us and kept evil from coming out. So maybe it can seal them from being able to do anything too. So they kind of backed them into a corner in the garage, and the two of the girls decided to start pouring the salt all around them. Made a circle of salt, and they tried to like step outside of the circle, and it was like they were in a box. They couldn't step outside of the circle. They tried to throw magic at it. They couldn't hit anyone with the magic because everything, inclusive of them, was sealed in that circle. So the father went inside the house, and then the girls went to the cemetery. Well, at some point they were able to get free of that, circle of salt. And so they went looking for the girls, and Winifred was able to get her book, and they ended up coming to the woods. And so the girl, um, the young girl, the one who was like the leader of the three girls in her group, I guess she was kind of like the most powerful. She was the most in tune with her powers, and probably a little bit older than the other two girls, so she had access to her powers. They hadn't grown into theirs yet. So, you know, she decides to basically try to get book from Winifred. And she was like, because she ended up taking um, the third girl that had walked away from their little group, because they couldn't get her father, so they took her. And they kind of put like a little cut on her neck. And they got some of her blood for the ritual. So her friends or whatever, they were like, we got to rescue her. So they walked up, and they were like, oh wow, they're actually here. So I forget the little girl's name, but she was like, you have a choice. You don't have to do this. So Winifred's like, well, apparently, like, you don't know who I am. Of course I have to do this. And the young girl is like, well, I wasn't talking to you. So Winifred's like, well, who the heck are you talking to? And she's like, I'm talking to him, the book. And so she's like, you know that you have a choice. You should choose wisely. And so then Book was like in midair at first, and Winifred's like, nice try. But then Book actually starts coming towards the young girl, and he chooses her to be his new guardian and holder and keeper, of all the rituals and magical secrets within that book. And to Winifred's surprise, because she's like, what the heck? Did he just go to somebody else? Like she had been used to him just staying with her, and coming to her. So, yeah, so that was surprising to Winifred. She couldn't believe it. She was like, well, take him. I don't need book anymore anyway. So they're like, okay. So she's like, I've already memorized the spell. And now that we have everything, thanks to you, book, we're going to perform that spell with or without you. So Winifred, um, Sarah, and Mary, they thought that the girls had run off. They thought that they had freed the third girl that was like the current mayor's daughter. They freed her and basically ran off to keep from, Winifred and her sisters killing them. And then, but they came back because they had decided, like, they're going to perform this really powerful spell. And somebody has to tell them that, it's not good to do. Book had opened up and showed them the spell, that Winifred and her sisters were about to do. And Book basically made them to read the warning. Like, look at this because she wouldn't. So y'all look at this. So when they read the warning, it was saying that something the most valuable thing in your eyes will be taken from you for the price of this type of power or this type of magic being done. So they were like, wow, like, we got to tell her because she clearly doesn't know. Like, so they decided to go back to the scene in the woods and approached him. And they were like, we don't want to hear anything. It's already done, it's already begun. Winifred was like, I will be the most powerful witch. And my sisters, they're just my sidekicks. Like, there's nothing no one in this world can do about it. And they were looking at her like, damn, like, I'm more than just a sidekick to your ass. That's how they was looking at her. And so um, they started the ritual. Winifred and her sister start saying the spell words. They had already warned them, those young girls, not to do it, but they went through with it anyway. And they start performing this ritual. They've got all the ingredients and they're saying the words, and all of a sudden, the black flame candle that usually doesn't go out until the end of Halloween night when they're supposed to go back into the spirit realm. That's when it usually would burn out. But this time it burned out while they were doing the ritual. So Sarah's like, Winifred, the black flame candle burned out, but we're still alive. We're powerful. It worked. So Winifred's like, yes, I told you. I told you guys. So they're like all dancing around and happy because they feel like they succeeded, in this spell. And then all of a sudden, um, Sarah and Mary start like slowly but surely like disappearing. It's like they became like one with the air. And their fingers were like disappearing like it was being sucked away by the air. They were being carried away like their physical essence by the wind in the air. And so yeah, it made me think of a lot of different things like the air signs. It made me think of self-sabotage with the Eight of Swords card. Um, I started thinking about many different things, many different signs and symbolism. So they started disappearing, and they're like, "Look, Winnie, what's going on? I'm disappearing. I'm fading away." So she's like, "Oh God, what's going on?" So she's looking at Sarah and Mary, and they're both starting to, kind of like disappear, like little by little, like their fingers are blowing away, and the rest of their bodies are starting to slowly but surely fade away too. And she's like, "What have I done? What's going on?" And the girl who was the leader of the younger girls from high school, she's like, that's what I was trying to tell you. The spell work is dangerous. It's not good to do. It takes away from you things that are the most valuable. And she's like, well, what will it take away from me? And the girl's like, your sisters. And she's like, no, not my sisters. Not my sisters. I need my sisters. And so they're like fading away, and they tell each other, love you, I'll see you again. And then they turn to Winnie like, we love you, sister. Hopefully we'll see you again too. And she's like, it was like really sad. It was touching. And Winifred was like to the girl, please, please, please find it in your heart to stop this, reverse this spell. Please, I need my sisters. I need them. I need them more than anything else in this world. Please. So um, she turned to Book and she's like, Winifred's like, can you find it in your heart to please reverse the spell? So Book is just like, I don't know, because you acted real nasty towards me earlier. That's how he was looking at her, like, I'll think about it. Like, But then book opened up for the girl to do a reversal spell for Winifred, um, the leader of the younger girls. So she started reciting, the spell work, and she was like, "Well, this says that this is supposed to reverse what was done." So she recites a couple of words, and then the two other girls with her, they're like, "Yakati yakati malakalistic," and it reminded Winifred. It was like very nostalgic. It reminded Winifred of when they first got book and started doing spells and rituals too. Her and her sisters. And she was like, thank you so much. I don't need the power. I don't need it. Without my sisters, it's nothing." So they finished reciting the spell, and then all of a sudden, Winifred starts slowly but surely disappearing. So I'm like, wow. So she was like, where's my sisters? What's happening? So they were like, well, it didn't undo what was done. Instead, it's putting you back with your sisters, returning you with your sisters, but you're going to where they are. So she's like, "Oh, I see." And she's like, well, this kind of like this is what I get, for going against what was warned to me, and just doing what I want to, where the spell was concerned. She didn't look at no warnings or nothing when she did that spell work. And so you can't do stuff like that and expect to, come out successful in the end. But she did. She thought that she was going to succeed because she had succeeded so many times before, and she felt like she was above looking at the warnings and proceeding with caution. And that was just the wrong answer, the wrong choice and decision for her to make. So she starts disappearing too, and I got teary eyed because I love the Sanderson sisters. But yeah, so um, I'm such a softie for things like that. But anyways, so she is like slowly but surely disappearing. Before her sisters disappeared, they're like, "Goodbye, Winnie," and they disappeared. I'm like, I can't believe they're gone. Like, that's crazy. So as Winnie is disappearing, the girl was telling her, like, with the spell that you did, there's a warning with it, and it says, no one person is meant to be the most powerful of all. Magic and power are meant to be shared with others. And so it was a very selfish thing for Winifred to try to take all the power in the world for herself. And as a result, she paid the price with her sisters because all magic has a cost, all magic has a price. And she paid with her sisters. She didn't read no warnings. She proceeded kind of like in ignorance, like, without really knowing what consequences would befall her. And she just did this, and the consequence was her losing her sisters. Um, so they read this out, and she was like, wow, she was sorry that she had ever did it. But it was a lesson that she ended up learning and actually paying for with her life too. And so as she's disappearing, she's like, I'm just, I'm thankful that, I learned from you guys. You guys have taught me so much here today. And, I'm sorry that I didn't listen to you, you know. And she's like, but, I must go now. I must go with my sisters. I'd rather be with my sisters. And right before the rest of her body and head disappeared, she's like, "Sisters!" And she disappears into, dust like they did. And then Billy Butcherson, the guy from the shop, he had put his head back on his body. And Billy Butcherson was like, I don't like you because of what you did. The guy was like, you know, I'm sorry about everything I did. They were threatening to end, humanity. So I had to do what I had to do. But I still plan to keep, my side of the bargain, my side of the ordeal. So the three girls, they're like, Billy Butcherson, you're Winifred's lover. So he's like, so the guy from the shop is like, no, 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 he's not Winifred's lover. That's a misconception. It's a lie. He was never Winifred's lover. They only shared one kiss. And so they were never lovers. That's just a misconception, that people started, spreading. So they're like, oh, okay. So he was like, just as I told you before, I promised you I would tell your story. I still am going to tell your story. So Billy Butcherson was like, thank you. I appreciate you for that. And he's like, I feel like I can now rest, And so he starts disappearing and floating into the wind like little microscopic pieces of him start floating away, fluttering away. And he eventually, dissipates into a dust as well. And so I guess Winifred, her sisters, and Billy Butcher, Billy Butcherson, finally found their resting places. But there was a lesson that Winifred, particularly, had to learn first, and unfortunately, it cost her and her sisters. And the movie kind of ended with um, the girls realizing that they had great power, and realizing that the three of them together could be an unstoppable force, and that they could help each other and protect each other. And they learned from looking at Winifred and her sisters that magic is nothing to play with, and it's nothing to be selfish or greedy about either, and that you have to use discernment where magical practices are concerned, because every bit of magic that you do comes with some sort of price. And if you are too good to uh, read the warnings and, you know, before, embarking on doing certain spells and rituals, well, then you could end up paying with your life. And, that's what that movie showed, and that's what it taught. And it was a very valuable lesson. And it was just a wonderful movie overall. They came into their powers, and they learned that together they were an unstoppable force. Those three high school aged girls, and they learned that when it's just one of them, they can hold the fort for a little bit, but they need each other ultimately. So it was a wonderful movie, and I encourage you guys to check it out. It's actually on Disney Plus. So, if you've seen it or whenever you have time to watch it, definitely watch the movie and let me know in the comments what you think about it and what you think about my overview on it. And I hope you all enjoy this overview, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace and bright blessings, guys.